Welcome, folks. I am here with some absolute legends in the Bitcoin space. You may not even know what they look like. They only recently appeared in front of cameras. Don't tell anybody. I'm here with Aleks Svetski, Untapped Growth, and Dr. Bitcoin. He's got the prescription for everything that ails you. It starts with a B, ends with an oin. Yes, it's Bitcoin. We're here to talk about Bitcoin. Welcome, fellas. How are you? Are you tired? Are you up for this conversation?
I'm stoked to jam out with these guys, man.
I'm falling asleep, man. I'm kidding.
You know what, Svetski?
Come on, babe.
Get out of
Okay,
here.
I'm leaving. I'm out.
I'm gonna wake you up.
Svetsky loves tickles. He just give him a little tickle.
He's always causing shit.
He's so toxic, Svetsky. Oh my god. Damn. Let's talk conference. Let's talk some highlights. Let's get one thing you loved at the conference, one thing that needs improvement. Svetsky, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, do you know what? You're at Bitcoin 2019. That's when we were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that was that or Riga. Were you at Riga?
Unfortunately not. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah. Okay. Those two in 2019 were like my two favorite conferences because they were still tight. They were small. You know, they were like a bunch of really, really, really good Bitcoiners. And I don't know, like this has been great, and I think I want to give credit to like the Bitcoin Magazine team because they, you know, they've done a fucking incredible job of like sort of putting this together, and in particular, sort of getting Ross in there, getting you know, there's been some really good people here, obviously, but I think shitcoiners are like a fucking plague. They enter everything, and they sort of infest the shit that we try and build, and it's really hard. Like that idiot Florence Mayweather or whatever his name is yesterday. Is it Florence?
Yeah, Florence Mayweather. Yes, it is henceforth Florence Mayweather.
Okay, is that his name?
This is the pleb take.
Okay.
We pay real attention to our
Alright.
celebrities.
So anyway, like the shit that he was saying yesterday, like I wasn't there watching. I was actually literally walking out, and I was with Gary Leland, and I started hearing him say like, "Oh, look, you know, we're all on the same page. We're all here. We should, you know, work together." I was like, "Gary, it's about the shitcoin," and Gary's like looking at me. I'm like, "What?" Count it down, and I was like, "I can fucking smell it." And he's like, and then he drops the dumb shit. So it's like you can't stop those people. So it's a bit difficult. But so anyway, coming back to your first question is I think they've done a really good job of trying to put something together that is Bitcoin only, you know, and their rules and guidelines have been really good. But you know, the shit coiners and the scum have like sort of seeped their way in, and that's kind of what's pissed me off. And I guess you're gonna get that with the larger events. So what can we do?
We should have known better, you know.
I think the next one should be on a cruise ship, and then we can say, "Oh, you like Ethereum? Look, we got an extra stage here for you," and then just fucking push him off the boat.
I was thinking about that. It might be good to have like an area of the conference,
Yeah.
and book them all on that stage. They can all go there. It doesn't live stream anywhere. They think it does, and
No,
let
just
them
push
spin their
off-
wheels.
Push him off the fucking boat. Fuck him. And then we just put the thing on turbocharge and leave him behind.
Yeah, it's definitely harder with bigger events. Like I almost liken it to, you know, I've only been to Burning Man once, and you know, you talk to the people who've been going for years, like, oh, it's so commercial now. It's so different than what it was in the old days, and you know, that's just what happens when you scale up. So it's different. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Jan Pritzker in the audience, front row. Love to have him here. Shout out to Jan.
Okay, now I'm definitely leaving.
But you know, like you said, I think they did a good job, and certain things like, you know, mempool.space and BISC like being front and center, like on the floor, like, you know, they did their best to honor Bitcoin, and you know, I respect that. And you know, you talk to some of the staff here, and they only had 4 months to put this on. They're already planning for the next one, and they're learning from mistakes, and they see what went well and what didn't. So I'm excited for the next one as well.
Yeah, man.
Mr. Growth.
So, kind of ignoring your question and going off of what Svetski was saying.
Yes.
As a pleb builder out there trying to like change the world in my industry, I'm both like super grateful for what's going on in the Bitcoin world because the monetary layer, it's the base foundation of human civilization, right? Like it is what creates trust and collaboration across time and space of people you can't communicate with directly because it's information in the marketplace. without all the groundwork that's been laid, I mean, pre-Bitcoin with Sabo and all the different digital currencies, very attempt of free market money, like through the defense of the fork wars, all the way to where we are now, my project would be freaking impossible. I couldn't do this without you guys. Only in Bitcoin world where competence and actual first principle truth ascends to the top of the stack, would it be possible to have allies to go out and change things like I'm doing? It just, there wouldn't be enough people with the intelligence and the freedom to build with me. Because I mean, like in fiat world, it's the art of pandering to those that are closest to the money printer.
Mhm.
So what ascends to the top is not skill. What ascends to the top is those that can people please the best. I mean, Elon, right? I mean, the whole example of safety and riffing on him about. So, like, you guys have given me a world that enables my dreams to come true. And I go home and I fucking weep about it. I can't believe I get to do what I'm doing. And if it wasn't for the blood you guys shed to make this possible, I mean, as toxic maximalists, as guys that held the line through thick and thin of so much fucking bullshit, I wouldn't have a chance to build and change the industry I'm in.
Well, on behalf of everyone, I thank you. He makes it sound like I'm a core dev when I'm not.
But it's not just the core devs.
No,
It's the community as a whole who stood firm in the face of all these false narratives, all these attempts to thwart us from just breaking the ethos where truth comes first. And you guys had the ethics to, like we talk about like Bitcoin, it hooks into human greed and it incentivizes kind of a system where that greed's used for truth. But that's not been true of the community as a whole. I mean, you look at Satoshi, right? He booted up the network, he bootstrapped it, and he actually turned the miners on and off to make sure we had competition equally across the other people. There's been so many little iterations of the community like that. I mean, even the first Bitcoin pizza sale. I mean, he did it because he's trying to spark movement in the community. He knew where Bitcoin was going. I mean, he understood it when he read some of the stuff he was writing at the time.
People say Laszlo, how dumb. No, it's Laszlo, what a fucking hero.
What
That's
a hero,
it, you know?
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
him, Russ, I want to just throw in there as well, man. Like, you know, without fucking Silk Road, you know, Bitcoin wouldn't have had the fucking the kickstart that it needed at the time. Like, you know, Russ is a fucking hero, and like all of them.
I mean, and not just the names we know. There's so many people that stood for the right thing at so many points when they could have compromised to keep the critical mass high enough that we've survived. So many unsung heroes in the space. And that's what makes guys like me and Bitcoin MD capable of building now. I mean, fiat's broken the whole world. It destroyed the incentive structure that just broke every industry in humanity. And only from this foundation can we fix it. So, like, my first sentiment is like gratitude. But I'm also just kind of fucking pissed. Like, Bitcoin is truth. The reason all the people are bringing their money here, like your super high net worth individuals, is because underneath that truth is safety. Everywhere else in the world is full of compromise. If we pander to the compromise in order to try to draw the money in, we're allowing them to destroy the very reason they're coming to us.
You know what? It makes me think about something else, and something that I've seen at Swan, and kind of confirm my beliefs in that, you know, there's this idea of greed, right? And you see people building all these shitcoin companies, and we say, oh, they're greedy, but like, I think if they actually cared about making money, they would be building on Bitcoin. They would be thinking much more long term, because, you know, we don't have a sell button at Swan, and we're fucking doing great. And it just goes to show that, like, if you stick to what you believe in, and you build on Bitcoin, like, you know, look at Fold. Look at all these companies that are absolutely crushing now and are like shining examples of how you can do it right.
River.
Exactly. You know, like, I think we're just going to see that continue. Dr. Bitcoin, you've been sitting there. You've got thoughts. You got lots of thoughts, and I want to hear them.
I'm just absorbing what these guys are saying, and I just want to build on what Untapped Growth here is talking about. And he and I have been talking a lot over the last few days, and we've actually connected, even though we come from completely different backgrounds. So I think what we realize is that we come from the experiences of our own industry and our own realms, and we see how fiat currency has completely broken the incentive structures in those industries, and we've seen the outcomes play out right before our eyes. And I think both of us and probably many of the people here have looked at their industries and thought, perhaps I can make a change and be a person that progresses this forward. And at least for me, I looked at it in the medical industry, and that's the fight I was fighting for a while. And then at some point, you realize that the system is rotten to the core. Everything is broken. The medical industry, for example, is just run by pharmaceuticals and insurance companies, among others. And when you look at our sense making institutions, I think you can say the same about all of them. Look at academia, news media and journalism, central banking, governments, the medical industry. Just go down the line. I'm sure whatever
Construction,
industry,
agriculture,
there you go.
And you,
on and on and on.
And so we look at those things, and it's great talking about Bitcoin and the history of money and understanding all that. And I really appreciate that. Everyone needs to go on that journey. But I think what we all are excited about is the second and third order effects. It's great to say Bitcoin fixes this, but let's go fix it now. Let's do it now. This is the time.
Untapped, you were saying, you said it in a way that I like to say that, like, slightly differently, that like Bitcoin is we're fundamentally changing the underpinnings of the entire world, you know. And so when we rebuild the world, it's going to be incredible to see what we build on top of it. Could you guys like tell everyone a little bit about what you're working on? Because I know you're, yeah.
All right. So just some background on myself. So I studied neuroscience. I'm a medical doctor. I did Alzheimer's research. I also have a master's degree in machine learning, so I have a data science background as well. And like I said, I was in clinical medicine for a long time, and I just realized that the fight had to come from outside. So I actually, about a month ago, decided to leave clinical medicine to take up a position as a medical director for a company that focuses on sovereign health. And I want to be a part of the solution, part of the people that actually help build up this parallel system, so that when the fiat world starts collapsing around us, people have the options to opt out, and they can find better solutions that offer them better options in a free market based on Bitcoin and fundamental first principles.
You, sir.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm a Bitcoiner, so interpret it through this lens. When you think about self-sovereignty for us as Bitcoiners and the new emergent nation state that is geographically asynchronous in the prophesied realm of the sovereign individual, right? We need security in three main realms first to be able to have the fuck you ability to anybody that tries to stop the truth. You need it in money, you need it in energy, you need it in food. In Bitcoin world, money is obviously being heavily fought for. Energy is making pretty good solid progress with the stranded gas mining guys, and the progress is being made on energy infrastructure with Bitcoin being a buyer of first and last resort. There's so much rabbit hole there. Nobody really is doing food. So with my background, I jumped into like, let's do regenerative agriculture using cattle. So Bitcoin's all heavy carnivore, and rightfully so. I mean, it's the truth of really nutrition, which we've been jamming on. So you can use cows to fix broken land when you manage them correctly. So fiat's destroyed everything in so many ways when it comes to agriculture. We've destroyed our topsoil, where one of my favorite books is Dirt, the Erosion of Civilizations. He tracks a bunch of different nations and civilizations. When they had a low time preference, they would invest in the fertility of their soil bank. That way they had more productive potential in their soil for the future. When a culture had a high time preference and started stripping fertility from their soil for fast production for today, the civilizations always collapse within a generation or two. We've done the same, but we use mechanized industry and chemicals and then debt to finance pumping more and more out of the soil. I mean, back in the 1930s with the Dust Bowl, right? I mean, like the breadbasket of the world, where we had this inheritance of productive land wealth of 10 to 15 feet of topsoil from the bison, was pretty much been destroyed. And we've covered it up, just like we do with everything, through treating the world like a machine with this Keynesian mindset where we can control all the variables and know exactly what's going to happen. And doing that, if we have our land where we stopped putting chemicals on it because of a supply chain disruption like the Suez Canal, right? We had some shortages then of actually some fertilizer amendments. If we have a disruption, you can plant your corn, it won't produce a crop because we don't have soil anymore. So we need, as Bitcoiners, to be able to have productive soil because soil is the first productive asset of humankind. That is what we need to survive. When you have healthy food, I mean, you have healthy kids, you have strength for your warrior class, intelligence because you can really grow and thrive as a scholar class. It's the base of all human thriving. It's your first place that you produce. Without food, all the other technology and things that we create to advance civilization, we can't do it. So that's what I'm working on. I'm building a nonprofit co-op where we, with a lot of cunning, bridge all the broken places in agriculture to make it possible for Bitcoiners to get off the ground and self-sovereign citizens.
I love that. Reminds me of, I mean, I'm not so deep into that world, so I don't know how we're actually going to fix the soil. But, you know, even I feel like you can do things in your life that are smaller. Like me and a bunch of other Bitcoiners, like decided, you know, we're mostly carnivores, and we found a local. Thank you, Jan. We found a local cattle rancher, and you know, we're getting a cow from him. You know, we're not going to the store, we're not getting processed meats. You know, I think the little things will add up, and then the things that the smarter people are doing will really add up.
100%.
Alex, you're a vegan, aren't you?
And I'm a breatharian.
What is that?
Just I survive off air. So I don't need anything.
You're doing really well on it.
Well, there's been a lot of hot air this weekend, so you should be good.
Yeah, I'm fucking great.
Can I just build on what
Please.
Untapped Growth was saying? So I think the reason why he and I connected is because in the medical industry, I think we've gotten away from some very obvious fundamental principles. What you eat, the nutrients you intake, the quality of those nutrients matters. It affects your physical health, your mental health, your long-term health in terms of your disease progression and disease occurrence. All of these things are clearly important. So what does our industry do about that? Well, look at the industries that dominate. They're the pharmaceutical industries and the insurance companies. But notice something else. It's also the centralized institutions that give out the guidelines and the advice to the doctors who then pass it on to the patients. So let's just take one example. The American Heart Association. They're concerned about heart disease. Right. Okay, so let's look at how they really came into prominence. They were basically a nothing organization that was just a small group of cardiologists until they got a $1.7 million donation from Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble is a producer of Crisco, an unsaturated vegetable oil. So what has AHA been promoting for the 20th century? Saturated fats, animal fats are bad. You should replace them with unsaturated fats. Another thing they promote, you should be on a high carbohydrate, low fat diet. None of the evidence actually points to this. This was all based on epidemiological studies in the 50s and 60s, junk science. Ansel Keys, if anyone wants to look it up, the John Maynard Keynes of medicine and nutrition. All of the guidelines are based on his work. His major work, the 7-country study produced in the late 50s, excluded all the countries that would actually go against his hypothesis. Completely biased study. But what happened? Him and his buddies took up big positions at these organizations like the American Heart Association, the National Institute of Health, the American Diabetes Association, and they helped set the guidelines. So, 30 years since the 1961 AHA guidelines first came out, not one large-scale randomized controlled trial on the difference in diets and the effect of saturated fat on health. Not one. All small-scale studies, very poor science, very inconclusive. But what happens? Now we know better. We have better tools to actually assess these things. We run randomized controlled trials independently in multiple locations, different age groups, genders, so on and so forth, so we can actually generalize these results. What do we find? 62 studies that actually talk about the difference in high carb, low fat diets and low carb, high fat diets. The first being the ones that the AHA promote. Of the 62 studies, 31 have significant findings. Of the 31, all 31 show that high fat, low carb diets are more effective for weight loss and management. Because of course they are. They work with your body's insulin hormone response. And if anyone wants more information, I'll tell you. But my point is, after this, after all these randomized controlled trials, systematic reviews, so on and so forth, the AHA, the ADA, and many other organizations are still promoting high carb diets.
I think I'm just gonna butt in.
Please.
The crux of this whole thing is that you sheep out there are much more easy to control if you're fat, sick, dumb, blind, obedient, brainwashed, indoctrinated, and all of that shit. So it pays to commoditize your dumbasses, and it's not easy to commoditize wolves. So let's just mass produce sheep. So and this is why they don't like people like Ross. This is why they don't like people like us, like Bitcoiners. Like the boys here with me. Like we are attempting and we are making strides towards being sovereign individuals, towards being wolves, not fucking sheep.
And they don't like us free.
And they
100%.
don't care about you. That's my point. They don't care about you. You're on your own. You're going to have to find your information yourself or through people like me who actually give you the relevant studies that you can conclude for yourself. Do your own research.
They're gonna
and
ban you, man. They're gonna ban you.
They ban me. I'm out. Okay. I'm out. There's a reason why I got out. Is because I want people to learn the truth, and I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm not beholden to the hospitals. I'm not beholden to the pharmaceuticals or the drug companies or the insurance companies. I'm just going to give you all the information you want, and I want you to all work to improve your health, your family's health, because this is the way forward.
That's where Bitcoin matters, right? Where the whole fiat world is this idea of cronyism, where you have to, like these fake studies, it's all grease in a palm. That way the people with the money can be happy with you, and it's all deception and corruption. Bitcoin's the world of truth. With us having real skills and now uncancelable money that we have savings, we can speak the truth and you can't stop us. You can't cancel the skills because there's enough people out there who care about the truth. You can't cancel my savings. You can't shut us down anymore because Bitcoin leads to a world of emergent truth speakers, whereas fiat creates friction where the truth can never be discovered.
There are a lot of memes in Bitcoin that appear very simple, right? Like Bitcoin fixes this, and we Bitcoiners say that Bitcoin fixes everything, and we don't mean that it fixes it directly. We mean that it will lead to the fix. It might take 100 years, or
I spoke about this morning actually. So there's two interesting effects that Bitcoin has on society, and sort of one of them is, who's read Sovereign Individual here? Yep, most people. Okay, great. So their whole thesis is built around this idea of the returns to violence. So what Bitcoin does fundamentally is it increases the cost of attack and it decreases the cost of defense, and that has a fundamental shift. Fundamentally shifts the way human beings interact. But what it also does, it actually transforms the individual's relationship with a few things. That is their time, their energy, natural resources, and their relationship with their own future. And there's you guys have probably all heard of time preference. Safe really popularized that notion. Where are we getting that feedback from? Anyway, by transforming, you reckon? By transforming the relationship that an individual has with those things, what happens is the individual makes better decisions. And when the individual makes better decisions, when you scale that up, like with better individuals, you have a better world. And that's like the crux of the Bitcoin fixes this meme. It's like better people make a better world. You can't just fucking force the world to be better by weakening the constituents of it. That's sort of what the statists want to do. It's like, follow fucking our rules. You're all ants and sheep, and it doesn't matter what the fuck you think. We know better for you. And that's such a broken, fucked up system. And for them, it works because they're not a part of it. they're outside of it, and we sort of fuel their ridiculous game. We pay for our own jailers by participating in their game. It's like playing a fucking game of Monopoly where one of the dudes gets to sit there and just like pull money out of the till while the rest of us are playing by the rules. It's like, wait a minute, that's not how it works. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents about the Bitcoin fixes. This is like, we change the returns to violence, but we also transform the individual's relationship with time, energy, with natural resources, and with their own future. That really fucking shifts everything.
It starts with the individual, It starts with all of you people, okay? You're going to leave here. You're going to convince one person to become a Bitcoiner. You're going to tell them why it's important to them. They're going to go out. They're going to change the world. There's a, I don't know if it's a good comparison, but there's a great quote in Schindler's List that's from, this Jewish text, and it's basically, save one life and save the world entire. And I really believe that, it's one person at a time. It's one recommendation to read The Sovereign Individual away from, minting another Bitcoiner. So let's do that.
And that goes back to my original answer of me being pissed. Because Bitcoin MD and I, we're betting our whole lives on the emergence of a Bitcoin world by forward leaning into it. What I'm doing is not going to work if Bitcoin fails. I'm operating on the assumption that it has won, and I'm betting everything on it. When we allow a fiat mindset of pandering to people for money to infiltrate the truth of Bitcoin, you're destabilizing the foundation of everything I'm betting my entire life on, trying to build a better world for us and our children. I'm not keen on that.
I'm in the position that Bitcoin has already won. I think it's inevitable, but I do want to say that you could spend your entire life advocating for Bitcoin, and even if Bitcoin fails, it wouldn't be a wasted life. I think that's an important thing to think about.
I agree, but the truth is its own frame. When we are apologizing for the truth to try to convince them of their virtue signaling by their frame, we're compromising on the foundation of that truth itself. That is a destabilization of the sovereignty of our new nation of Bitcoin. We just need to stop apologizing and speak.
Yeah, I was actually talking to CK about this. It's like, we need to go on the offense. Is we're always trying to like, and as much as defending the network is important, right? So you have idiots sort of attack and say, oh yeah, well, what about Bitcoin and like the energy problem? Go fuck your mum. It's like, we need to go on the attack, because Bitcoin fundamentally does, like, when we think about the environment, I did a talk this morning and that was one of the elements, and the damage these clowns do to the environment, just like you were talking about with topsoil, with the subsidizing of like plastics, with the misallocation of resources, with the waste of bureaucracy, with all of the money that gets fucking burnt on, dumb ideas, in the financialization of the world, like with Wall Street, or, the next dick pic app that comes out of Silicon Valley, which is supposedly innovation. Like, all of this stuff is waste. Like, Bitcoin saves the environment by removing all of that sludge in the middle, and that is fundamentally transformative. And anyway, I don't know what the fuck my original point was.
And there's so much hidden waste too. It's not like just the petrodollar environmental destruction or whatever the stuff that's obvious on the surface. You can confirm this. Fiat world incentivizes that incompetence rises to the surface. They are the ones who ascend to places of power, because incompetents are the ones that are willing to lie rather than stand on truth to get along with everybody. So a guy like you get repressed in the world and can't save people.
I'm really glad you said that. So in my industry, you essentially have to play by the rules. Otherwise, you start becoming an outcast. Just to say some common truths about things like diet and nutrition, you're going to face so much backlash from your own colleagues. Regardless if you present the evidence, you're still going to get backlash. Your job in that field and in many other fields is to be a yes man, to agree with the guidelines, to move forward, jump through the next hoop, pass the next exam, do the next board exam, USMLE, whatever it is, keep jumping through all those hoops one by one by one until you get to the very top, and then you could just dump on all the people below you, the residents, and so on and so forth. But throughout that whole journey, are you actually improving the health of your patients? Are you really focused on improving them, their lives, their livelihood, the quality of their life, not just the lives they lead in terms of the number of years? Are you really doing that? Some are. So I have some colleagues who are still in there, who are still fighting the good fight, but many have just accepted defeat and are just towing the company line, doing what's comfortable for them, and just keeping their mouths shut, even if they know the truth. So the incentive structure is so perverted that we push away the truth, even if we know it, for the sake of comfort and supposed stability.
So let me ask you this then, real quick. If there are people out there who are still towing that line, they're company people and, they don't have the courage to do this, like, how do you get them over that hump? Like, how did you get there?
I think for me, it took time because the medical industry is such a one-way track. It's really hard for people to get off that track. It starts very young. You have to study for all the exams, get into the right school, take the right classes, and then once you do that, you have to take the MCAT and apply to schools, do residency exams, boards, whatever. It's just this one track, and it takes over your life.
And it becomes a massive sunk cost.
That's another problem. So what I've found talking to a lot of my friends is they hear what I say and they think, oh, me too. I want to get out, but I just don't know how. And then also the sunk cost. I've put so much money into it. I've put so much time into it. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and they've spent their first 25 to 30 years of their life trying to chase this thing. And once they get there, they realize, oh, this isn't exactly what I thought it was. So what happens when they get there? They're mostly trapped. So for me, it was just trying to find my way out. And the big way I did that was trying to be self-sovereign. For me, Bitcoin played a huge part. Once I felt like I was financially free, then I had the power to make the decision to get out and actually do what I want to do according to my fundamental principles.
I mean, me too. Like, end of 2020, I was still negative net worth. Until this bull run, I didn't have the freedom to be out here speaking the truth. It broke me out, escape velocity. That is the foundation of self-sovereignty.
Me three.
So, like, from a theory perspective, we all know how destructive fiat is. But I think you only really, truly grasp it when you try to be a disruptive entrepreneur. Because it just, like Joel Salatin talks about farming, everything I try to do is illegal. You just get ground down if any value you try to add is just instantly attempted to be destroyed. Like, the fiat world is not about producing, it's not about doing good for your patients. It's just all about the grift of pleasing those that are closer to the money printer. It's Cantillon effect from the top to the bottom. And we talk about it, but until you try to disrupt, you do not have any fucking idea how pernicious it is.
I have gotten a lot of support from people over the last month since I made the announcement that I'm leaving medical school, leaving medicine. But leaving medicine, I knew that there was going to be a lot of people that also are on the other side of that, who are, who are saying, oh, well, he's not really something like a doctor, even though I am, or like he's not really experienced, or he's not this and that, or they'll start bad mouthing. They'll say, oh, he's just a quack. And you've seen it with a lot of other doctors who have gone off the path, talked about nutrition, health, whatever they might talk about, and you see that all the time. But I feel like
no matter how many people they're helping,
yep,
it doesn't matter if they've helped 100x more people, 1,000x more people than their closest competitor in the mainstream industry, they still get knocked on.
And the reason why I'm okay with it is because I know I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I know that the only way I can live out the life I want and feel like I've lived a good life is by living it according to my values. So I don't care how many arrows come my way. I'll take them so long as I get to live the way I want to live and put what I want into the world to help other people.
So, Svetski, so when I really think about like the destruction of the loss of fiat because of waste, that's what I think about. How many incredible entrepreneurs, inventors, people that actually have capacity in them to change the world never are able to do anything because of the brokenness of the system with the bad monetary layer.
Yeah, it's all waste, man. Like that's the thing. Like I wrote about that in that article, recently, the fiat fascism, communism. It's waste at every layer of society: environmental waste, intellectual waste, bureaucratic waste, economic waste, fucking waste all the way down. Like, it ain't turtles all the way down. It's fucking waste all the way down. And Bitcoin rug pulls these fucking psychopaths.
So, gents,
That's what we needed.
I think we're coming up to the end of our time, and that last riff was amazing, but it was a little depressing. So, here's what I'm going to ask. I want a little bit of hope from each of you before we go. A little bit of Bitcoin hope. What are you hopeful for? How does Bitcoin fix this? Advice for the folks at home.
So I'll start by saying I think the last 10 years have been a very important time in terms of the education about Bitcoin, money, and all of these things. And I think everyone has to go through that journey. But once you go through that journey, you have to start thinking about the second and third order effect. How is Bitcoin actually going to change things? How is Bitcoin going to fix these things? And look at your own industries. Look at where you work. Look how broken the incentive structures are. And start thinking about how you could possibly fix a system that's working in parallel with the current system to actually make the changes you want to see in the world. And I think the people in this room and the people here are going to be the ones that build that system.
In Bitcoin, you have a community of allies of people who care about truth. You have a community of people who live with integrity because they care about that truth. The truth sets you free. Integrity is unstoppable. Like, the enemy is coming for me, but he has nothing on me. The truth has no handles. It can't be stopped. It can't be jerked around. It can't be controlled or manipulated. Live the truth. Stay the course. Don't fall into the false framing. When we build on that foundation, the freedom will come. You are not alone. The plebs will inherit the earth because we're fixing it together.
That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you.
That should have gone last. Fuck me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay. To just add to that, like, we've got gravity on our side. Like, so I always think when I think about the fiat system or the existing system, if anyone remembers the Looney Tunes and you had Wile E. Coyote running off the side of the fucking cliff, that's sort of that's where the existing system is now. Like, we've run off the side of the cliff and we're looking down and we're like, oh fuck, we're about to fall. So Bitcoin gives us an opportunity to sort of have our own landing outside of this clusterfuck and sort of survive. Like, instead of regressing back to a world in which, we're literally living in fucking tents and huts, like we can still have a chance to progress. And what I like about it, and I said this with American Hodl and Stoney a couple, actually last year, where it was like, we get to be revolutionaries and change the world and get fucking rich in the process. So that's where I'm going to leave it.
We've got one more word from Untapped Growth.
So have you guys ever had the experience where you read a news article and it's a realm you actually know something about, you realize just how dumb it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Daily.
Yeah, so all of us live in our own realms. What we don't realize is, like Svetski's saying, they are so close to the edge in every single industry. Self-sovereignty matters. Lean forward into hyper-Bitcoinization. Allow the incentives of low time preference to enable you to pre-exist in that state so you minimize the damage when the thing falls and you can catch as many people with you as you can.
Fuck yes.
Fuck yes.
Fuck yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. To everyone who's in the Swan Dome the last 2 days, it's been amazing. Thank you on behalf of all of us, on behalf of Brady and the whole Swan team. I think we might be doing a little sing-along, a little ballad of Surfer Jim. Give it up for Surfer Jim. Give it up for Surfer Jim. And I don't know where or when we're doing that, but stay tuned.